Back in Philadelphia, Benjamin was better behaved. He had a naturally happy disposition and made friends easily. Gradually, he found other young men who liked to read and argue and try out new ideas. They formed themselves into a club they called Leather Apron Club, and they met every Friday night. Each new member had to put his hand on his heart and swear that he loved mankind and the truth. They talked about all sorts of subjects. Why, they asked, does dew form on the outside of a cold glass in hot weather? If the country has a bad law, should a man obey it? Can a poor man stay honest and still get ahead in the world? Philadelphia suited young Benjamin perfectly. He lived on High Street, the busiest and noisiest street in town. On one end of the street was the Delaware River to jump into when he felt like a goat leap. On the other end of the street was Debbie Reed, whom he courted and married. Benjamin and Debbie were married in 1730. Benjamin was 24 years old now and getting ahead in the world. He had his own print shop, owned his own newspaper, and because he was such a good printer, he did the printing for the government of Pennsylvania. He always used the blackest ink and the whitest paper he could find. In addition, Debbie and Benjamin ran a store in the front of their house. They sold books, sealing wax, pencils, maps, pictures of birds and animals, fishnets, chocolate, compasses, codfish, and cloth. And they always had a good supply of Mr. Franklin soap for sale. Yet no matter how busy he was, Benjamin found time to try out new ideas. Sometimes he had ideas on why things could happen the way they do. He wrote about comets. He formed a theory about hurricanes. They moved, he said, from southwest to northwest, contrary to the way winds usually move. Once he made an experiment with a pot of molasses and an ant. He hung the pot on a string and watched for the ant to crawl down. But soon there was a swarm of ants crawling up the string, so Benjamin concluded that ants have a way of telling each other news. Sometimes Benjamin's ideas were for the improvement of Philadelphia. He formed the first circulating library in America. He helped organize Philadelphia's fire department. He suggested ways to light the streets, deepen the rivers, dispose of garbage, and keep people from slipping on ice in winter. I love these ideas right here. Sometimes his ideas turned into inventions. At the head of his bed, he hung a cord which was connected to an iron bolt on his door. When he wanted to lock his door at night, he didn't have to get out of bed. He just pulled the cord, rolled over, and shut his eyes. He invented a stepladder stool with a seat that turned up and a rocking chair with a fan over it. When he rocked, the fan would turn and keep the flies off his head. He fixed up a pole with movable fingers to use when he wanted to take books down from high shelves. He cut a hole in his kitchen wall, and he put a windmill to turn his meat roaster. And he invented an iron stove with a pipe leading outside. The stove produced more heat than an ordinary fireplace. It cost less to operate, was less smoky, and it became very popular. It was called the Franklin stove. And many, many people, you guys, bought these stoves. So you can take a look at all of his inventions right there.